We are continuing coverage of the Maxwell Anderson trial, now headed into week 2 as the state continues to make their case.
And we are now joined once again by criminal defense attorney and legal expert Julius Kim of Kim and Lavoie Law Firm. So much to unpack with today. I know Mary has some questions. I have some questions. I want to start with what I thought would be fascinating, and it was. The tenant downstairs called as a state witness, but the defense sort of used him to stress a lot of things that nothing sounded unusual that night. Did they do a good job of using the state's witness to their defense?
Yeah, I think they did. I think that the state strategically called the tenant in their case in chief, quite honestly, just to kind of take some of the wind out of the defense sails, because that was going to be the defense's star witness. But the defense did do a good job of establishing that that witness did not hear anything going on upstairs at the time this incident allegedly occurred.
I want to ask, too, why we didn't see that witness. There have been a couple times where the witnesses has not been shown. Today was one of those cases. Does the witness have a right to say, I don't want to be on camera?
I think the witness has a right to request it, and I think they made that request of the prosecution today, and I don't think that the defense objected and that the judge granted that request for him not to be seen.
There was a lot of video of the two at the Twisted Fisherman, at this other place, at this other establishment. And in that, it appears as though everything's normal. However, we do see that there's been drinking there. But we do know that Sade Robinson did not have any drugs or alcohol in her system at the time of her death. That's what the ME has said. If she's drinking, if they're out on a date, how is it possible nothing is showing up?
Yeah, that's a great question, because just before the state introduced that evidence about all the drinking that was going on that night, the medical examiner had testified that no alcohol was found in her body, and that just has to do with toxicology, because alcohol can be found in people's body only for a limited period of time. And so based upon half-lives and alcohol consumption and toxicology, they didn't find alcohol in her body, but they're proving that she drank that night through these video images.
The medical examiner, Dr. Lauren Decker, testified for, again, the state, but at times it's almost sounded like she was a defense witness. They talked about, in a graphic exchange, the force that would be needed to dismember a body. Are they getting to the point where they're trying to prove, and this is the defense, saying, okay, where are the tools? Where is everything? If she was dismembered, and we know that she was, show us how it was done. They don't know that, right?
Right. I think it's been established that the state can't prove how Sade Robinson was murdered, where she was murdered, et cetera. And so that's a problem, a big problem for the state, obviously, okay? But I think one way that testimony was helpful is because it just showed the sheer brutality, the sheer viciousness of what happened when this body was being dismembered. And sometimes the state can play on those things in order to gain a little bit of leverage if other facts are not that robust.
And the defense pressed her to say, you know, there's a difference between cause of death and manner of death. And we only know one of them at this point.
That's right. They only know that she died by homicide, but but they don't know how. They don't know how.
Yeah, we've dug into that testimony of the tenant downstairs, and that's one thing that you alluded to in our 9 o'clock hour. He's saying, I didn't hear anything. It sounds like there was nobody up there, kind of alluding to the fact that there couldn't have been anybody else in that apartment. And you're saying there may be a smoking gun coming when it comes to Anderson's phone. There could be something on there that's really going to turn this thing around to a certain degree.
Yeah, I was paying very close attention to the opening statements in this case, because that will give us a little bit of a roadmap of what we expect to see. And one thing that we haven't seen from the state yet is an image. They say that they have an image of Maxwell Anderson and Sade Robinson in maybe a compromising position that was found on Maxwell Anderson's phone. Well, if that's the case, that kind of begs the question, well, this occurred in Maxwell Anderson's apartment. Why didn't this tenant hear anything? Which then goes to the fact that, well, maybe this tenant really isn't as reliable as they think for the defense.
Is the state making its case? Because every time they sort of present somebody, the defense is doing a pretty good job of saying, but, right? And that's the defense attorney's job. You can see where the breadcrumbs are going better than us. What can we expect in the next couple days from the state? What don't we see that you see?
Yeah, I think that the state's done a good job of using the evidence that they have. I mean, this isn't easy. Circumstantial cases are very difficult to prove. And so they've laid out the big picture right now, and I think they're starting to kind of zero in on Maxwell Anderson. You can see that they're starting to identify him more in court. I think that we're going to see evidence of Maxwell Anderson and Sade Robinson actually together in his apartment. And I also think that we're going to see some testimony from one of Maxwell Anderson's ex-girlfriends or someone that knows him that says that he knows Warnemont Park very, very well. And so I think those are all things that are going to try and push the state into the argument that only Maxwell Anderson could have done this.
And do you think the defense is going to come in strong now after all that lack of evidence, if there you will, just more of, again, the jury was told, use common sense, connect the dots. Do you think they have a really big job in front of them?
You know, I don't know how many more witnesses are left for the defense at this point in time. The big witness for the defense, in my opinion, was probably that tenant, and that tenant went today.
Can they be called again, that tenant, as a defense witness?
Yes, they
That's
could.
possible.
They could
and
be
likely.
called. We'll see. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but it's possible to do.
Julius Kim of Kim and Lavoie, we really appreciate you spending your nights with us explaining what we don't see and what you do see. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.